Hello, this is just a quick, I guess, recap of the part one of the book thief. Well, not all of part one, just the first section entitled The Gravedigger's Handbook. The reason I'm doing this is because at this current time there is not a lot of recaps on the internet, especially not on things like Spark Notes. So this is just for the kids who really don't feel like reading like I did, and since I was forced to, I'm just trying to help you out. Alright, so the first thing, it's called the Gravedigger's Handbook, and you'll find out why. As an overnote, Death is narrating the whole thing. Oh, sorry about that. Death is narrating the whole story, so it's not from Liesel's perspective. It's mostly Liesel. At the end of the story, you'll find out he spoils a lot during the story, but Liesel had, at the end, when she died, she had a book, which you find out in the prologue, and Death picked it up and is pretty much talking about what he's reading in the book, and it's like a recap of her whole life. So we start out by being introduced to a girl named Liesel Memminger. Now Liesel, you'll find out through the story, is a very dynamic character, which means she's changing throughout. But the first thing we do find out about her is that her little brother dies on the train ride to her new family. Well, I don't know if it's to her new family, but her little brother dies on the train. And that brings us to the funeral. The funeral is really cold and snowy, which symbolizes how Liesel is feeling. This book is really big on colors and what colors symbolize. So right now, Liesel is mourning over her brother. She's really, really sad about him. That's where she steals her first book. It's called The Gravedigger's Handbook. It's on the ground, and before she leaves, when she's at her brother's grave, she finds it and she takes it. Now, I believe, as Death quotes, it's the start of her illustrious career as a book thief. And though it seems kind of weird now, you'll see later on how her stealing books really has an impact. Now she has to go to her new family because her mom can't support her, so for the better, she brings her to Himmel Street, which Himmel translates into heaven. Now this is irony because this is during the Holocaust, so no real street in Germany is heaven. And also it's foreshadowing because as a really good book, nothing can always go good, so they're living on Heaven Street, and it doesn't really turn out to be heaven. That's where we meet Hans and Rosa Huberman. They are her new parents. Now you'll find out, I believe in the next part, which I'll talk about in my next video, or maybe the same video, Hans is this really nice guy. As you meet him, he doesn't say much in this section, but then you meet Rosa, and all she can do is swear. She's a really rude and intolerable woman, but as you'll find out later, she's very nice, and she really does care for Liesel. And so I believe that's all I talk about for this little part. This is the second, I guess you would call, chapter to the book. It's called Growing Up a Sandwich. Now, I don't know, I probably pronounced that wrong, but sandwich means pig in German, and you'll find most of the German words in this book are mostly swear words, besides like something like communist, which is also in this chapter. But since with that said, you learn, this is a fairly short chapter, you learn about Hans and Rosa Huberman. Now Hans, he loves to smoke, which comes in later. He plays the accordion, which the fact of how he learned to play the accordion will be given to you in, I believe, maybe the next section of the book, and that's a big deal. He's a painter, which is also one of the biggest things, and he likes to roll cigarettes, which is minor to the book, but also comes in handy. And he's already avoided death. This is one of the things how I talked about how death gives a lot of spoilers. You'll find out how he avoided death in a little. No one ever notices Hans because his wife Rosa is just an atrocious beast of a person, so he kind of gets overshadowed by her and never really acts out. He keeps to himself. Now Rosa, she washes and irons for other people, mostly the richer people in the town, and this is another huge part of the book. She's a bad cook, which doesn't really matter much, but she has a horrible attitude, which you'll see through the book, and that's how other people see her, and that somewhat affects her. Now, one thing you do have to learn is Rosa really does love Liesel, no matter how much she cusses at her or just hits her with wooden spoons. She really does love her. Alright, this one's called The Woman with the Iron Fist. Let's get started. Liesel has nightmares of her brother in the beginning of it, and Hans comforts her and never leaves, and the quote from the book is, "Not leaving, an act of trust and love often deciphered by children." This shows that Liesel, as a child, is really thankful that Hans actually takes time out of his day when she wets her bed at night to clean it and just sit with her. He also plays the accordion for her at night and sometimes in the morning, because even though Rosa hates it, it comforts Liesel, so he does it. They also reference the Gravedigger's Handbook. She keeps it under her bed. The Hoovermans haven't found out about it yet. And it reminds her of the last time she saw her mother and her brother. And if you haven't got it yet, I maybe didn't explain it that well. She was separated from her mother because her mother could not support her. So she was given to the Hoovermans, and that's how she got in this position. She's really bad at school. She's the shortest one there. She's practically illiterate. And even though she has a really big will to learn and read and write, she can't get the right amount of attention and teaching that she wants at school. So she'll stay illiterate until somebody like Hans helps her out. Liesel for Christmas gets a used doll. Hans says, sorry, this is all we can get, but Rosa, again, it shows the characters, Rosa says you're lucky you get anything. Then we go on to Rosa taking Liesel for her laundry runs and teaches her who the clients are. When they get to the mayor's house, the mayor's wife answers and gives them the clothes but doesn't thank them. This is when Rosa says, this is why we don't like the rich people, and Liesel probably comes to the conclusion that she won't like them either because they're mean. But the mayor's wife plays a huge, giant, just role in this book. She actually will catch Liesel later on stealing a book, and that just brings down a whole string of events. Last person in this chapter you meet is Frau Holtzapfel. How he's a character in this is he spits on the door of the Hoovermans every time he walks by. That's because Rosa and Frau have been in this decade-long argument, so every time he walks by he spits on it. And as it's quoted from the book, when a woman with an iron fist tells you to do something, you do it, and that's Liesel talking about Rosa forcing her to wipe the spit off of the door.